Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to Becoming Cleo. Today I want to talk to you all about how I manifested my dream apartment in my dream neighborhood. So let's get right into it. So I currently live in California, and I've been living in California for about 3 years. And living in the apartment that I was in prior to the one that I'm in now, I learned a lot of different things that I liked in an apartment and also a lot of different things that I didn't like in an apartment. So I kind of had a really good foundation to figure out what exactly is it do I need in my next apartment and what can I do to make sure that the next apartment has everything that I have. So 6 months looking for an apartment, I did a lot of manifestation to make sure that this moment can happen. And so now I'm going to share with you all how I was able to manifest my dream apartment in my dream neighborhood. The very first thing I did was I got specific with what I wanted in an apartment, my non-negotiables, the things I was not willing to compromise on. And I made sure that while I was getting specific with what I wanted in an apartment, that I was also getting into the why I want these specific things. So I'll share my non-negotiables with you all, and I'll share why I wanted each and every single one of them, because I feel like it's important to attach your why to it, just so you can know all of the reasons that you want these different things for your apartment. So the very first thing I wanted was a patio or a balcony. To be outside to eat lunch. I work from home, so I wanted to be able to sit outside during my work day, maybe work outside. I wanted to have a garden. And so I was like, if I have a patio or a balcony, all of these things can happen. My second one was I wanted it to be spacious. The last apartment felt a little bit cramped, and I was like, I want to be able to feel like I have freedom to move around in this apartment. I didn't want to feel stuffed or crammed in the apartment. It really was just this one was more so just about how I wanted to feel, and that I just wanted to feel free. The third thing is I wanted this apartment to have character. So I love apartments that are kind of unique, you know, like ones that might be a little bit older, but they have like these unique features or these unique attributes to it. Well, I do love a high-rise apartment, and looking at those are so beautiful. For me personally, I wanted a more so older apartment that just had a lot of character to it, and that's because I feel like it feels more like home. Next thing was I wanted the apartment to be walker friendly. In the last place, people really weren't outside like that. Like, they weren't really walking too much. And for me, having a neighborhood that's walker friendly, it just feels like I'm able to walk in my neighborhood. I'm able to get my steps in, but also go places. There's a higher chance that people are going to be outside, out and about, because it's walker friendly. So a friendly neighborhood just aligns more so with the lifestyle that I'm looking for in this current phase of my life. Last specific is I wanted it to be within this range to this range when it comes to the pricing. My boyfriend's two non-negotiables were it had to have good parking, and that's because the last place had really terrible parking, and he wanted a place that also allowed pets because he wanted to get a dog. Those were my specifics about what kind of apartment I was looking for. So I didn't really too many specifics, just things that I felt personally was necessary for me to have the dream apartment that I was looking for. I'm gonna leave it open because there's always a chance to find something greater than what it is that you're looking for. The second thing was I wrote very specific affirmations for what I was looking for in my apartment and in my neighborhood. Give you an example of what I mean. So one of the affirmations that I would say is, I love waking up in my new apartment and stepping outside on my patio to have breakfast. Every day, I would always write that affirmation down every day, and I would say it as much as I could every day, because for me, it really helped me to get that feeling of what it would feel like once I'm in this apartment. And I feel like, to me personally, when you're trying to manifest something, it's super important to know how that thing is going to feel. If you could feel how you think that thing feel once you receive it, once you're in it, that's a way to help you to manifest. I would also write down things like, I love taking walks in my neighborhood and stopping by local plant shops. Just things that were very specific to my neighborhood, and I would write it as if it already happened, just to get me very excited about the possibility of it happening. And I feel like this is something that really helped me to manifest my dream apartment, because I was already speaking it as if, and I was feeling those feelings of what it would feel like once I was able to manifest my dream apartment. The third thing that I did to manifest my dream apartment was I started scripting. Got a journal specifically for scripting, and I would write down my day from morning to night in the present tense. So I would be scripting and writing as if this thing has already happened. So it's very similar to the affirmations that I just recited, but I would say, I woke up in my brand new apartment, went outside to do yoga on the balcony. After that, I took a walk in my neighborhood and I was able to meet some really amazing people. That I sat down and ate lunch at this specific restaurant that's 5 minutes from my house. Now, what my life would look like once I'm living in this apartment and in this neighborhood. And I wrote it in the present tense to kind of keep me in that feeling and keep me in that moment of what it would feel like once I finally was able to manifest this apartment in this neighborhood. The fourth thing that I did was I would visualize. So this is similar to the scripting, but it's more of a visual version. So it's like a meditation where I would sit down, have my meditation music on, and I would visualize myself in an apartment that looked like my dream apartment. So in this process, I didn't know exactly what my apartment was going to look like. So in my visualization, I know what my dream apartment would look like. But I did know that I wanted it to be spacious, I wanted it to have a patio, and I wanted it to be walker friendly. So in my visualization, I would focus on the things that I could see. Picture myself walking through an apartment that had a patio, that was spacious, that was walker friendly, and just picture myself doing day-to-day activities. Like in my visualization, for example, I would see someone walking down the street and I'd make sure to say hi to them in the visualization. With me, that helped to make it very real. I would really hone in on the details of what my visualization would look like. The thing that I did was I remained consistent on this journey and I never gave up. But I did take breaks when I felt like I was too overwhelmed. One of the things that I want to highlight is that it did take me 6 months to find this specific apartment. I've had all of those non-negotiables or wanted to live in that specific neighborhood, then it probably would have taken me a lot sooner. But because I wanted to be very intentional with the next place, I wanted to make sure that I took my time. So 6 months is a long time to look for an apartment. Not everybody can take 6 months to find their dream apartment, or it really just depends on your current situation. But for me, for the very last apartment, we were paying month to month. Each month we would pay and then keep the month to month until we were ready to submit our 30-day notice. So if had I not continued to search for this apartment every few days, or had I not continued to be consistent, I probably would not have found this apartment because it was literally off the market 2 business days. The last thing that I did to manifest my dream apartment and my dream neighborhood is detached from the outcome. So yes, I wanted to live in this specific neighborhood, and yes, I wanted my apartment to have all of my non-negotiables. I'm sure to not think about manifesting my dream apartment at every single waking hour. I would still take time to do my workout, to do the things that I love, to appreciate my current apartment. I would still live my day-to-day life without obsessing over if this is going to come true or not, and without obsessing over how long it's going to take. So I just didn't get caught up in the how of things. I got specific about what I wanted. I did the spiritual work to help me manifest this specific thing, and then I continue on about my day. Never thought about when is it going to happen. There were times where I would be disappointed because it was taking so long, or times where I felt like I should just give up and move somewhere where I don't necessarily want to live just for the sake of finding a new apartment. But by detaching from the outcome, found that I was able to have more patience, and I was able to allow divine timing to essentially happen and take place. Like, yes, you want this thing to happen, but I think it's important to not think about it at every waking moment. Still continue to live your life, still continue to do the things that you would regularly do. I encourage you to not get caught up in how something's going to happen or when something is going to happen. Instead, easier said than done, just focus on the what. What do you want to manifest? What do you want to happen? What do you want to feel like? I find that when manifesting for me, if I focus on the what and the why, the how and the when will essentially take care of itself and will fall into alignment within divine timing. For context, I currently live with my boyfriend, and so once it was time for us to move out of the last apartment, we began looking for a new one. I wanted us to be really intentional about us finding our next apartment, and I also wanted to have an apartment in a neighborhood that aligned with my current lifestyle. And so fast forward to the beginning of last year, we moved into our new apartment, which is my dream apartment in my dream neighborhood. First decided to leave the last apartment. We had begun looking in the summer. This is the time where everybody is trying to move. People from the nearby colleges, they're also trying to move. Everybody's just looking for an apartment at this time. It's like, be sure that's true for a lot of different cities, but for where I live specifically, it was very, very much true. And so in us looking for an apartment, we really weren't finding anything that fits our needs, but also the process to get an apartment was extremely frustrating. I mean, like, there were times where we would sign up to tour an apartment, and before we could even tour, the apartment would be taken off the market. There were times where we would put in several applications and people didn't get back to us. It just seems like the apartment could literally be gone in 24 hours. Like, you find something on Zillow that you really love, and then the next day it's literally gone because somebody decided to move on that apartment. And also, for where we live, a lot of times the best way to find an apartment is on foot, because people will put out the for rent signs so you can see them as you're driving by or as you're walking. It seems to be a more so a if you know kind of vibe, rather than looking at Zillow or looking at Truilla or websites like that. And so the whole process took us 6 months. And so at the beginning, we're really hopeful. We were looking, things really weren't panning out for us. And then we were like, okay, let's move a little bit further away from where we currently live, because that area is less popular, but also that area is more affordable. So let's move further away, even though it's not where we want to live. Maybe we'll have a better chance at finding a place then. So we started looking further away, which would have been a 30 to 45 minute drive from where we were currently living. And that was also kind of like a hard process too, because one, I wasn't really comfortable moving that far from where we currently live. Two, none of us really wanted to live in that area. It was more so going to be out of convenience. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I wanted to make sure that I was extremely intentional about the next apartment that we move in. So 3 months before finding our dream apartment, we were driving around looking in different neighborhoods, trying to find those for rent signs, as we got hungry. And so we both wanted seafood, and I looked up, seafood restaurants near me on Google, and I found this place. It was a seafood restaurant, and so we decided to go. So as we're driving to the seafood restaurant, driving through the neighborhood to get there, I start looking around and I'm like, wait a minute. I really like the look of this neighborhood. The streets are very wide. There are a lot of people out. There's a lot of things to do in the neighborhood, and it overall just felt peaceful and just calming to be there. So I was like, okay, I actually really like this neighborhood. Maybe we should start looking here. And so that was kind of like the first time that I was ever introduced to that neighborhood, but I knew that from the moment I saw it, this is where I wanted to live. So fast forward, we ate our dinner. It started to get dark outside, and so we walked through the neighborhood because I wanted to see what it was like at night. At night, a lot of people were out, women were out, and they were out with their dogs, and that made me feel really comfortable, because I was like, wow, if women feel safe enough to be outside in this neighborhood, that's a good sign that one, this neighborhood is probably fairly safe, or two, that I also could feel safe outside in this neighborhood. And so I was like, okay, this is the neighborhood that I have to live in. This is the neighborhood that I want. So fast forward from October to January, when we first discovered the neighborhood, we kept looking all around California, and we kept looking specifically in that neighborhood, but there was nothing coming up in that neighborhood. And the things that did come up, either they went off the market super quick, or they were out of our price range. And so, as I mentioned before, a lot of where I live when it comes to looking for apartments seems to be a if you know kind of thing. So in that whole 6-month process of looking, I decided to compile together a list of different property management companies in our area. So I had this list of like 60 different property management companies, and about a few times a week I would go through every single website of these different property management companies, got to the bottom of the property management list, and I clicked on this one website and I saw 2 apartments on there. One of the apartments was a little bit below what we were willing to pay, and the other one was a little bit above of what we were willing to pay. And so I was like, wow, both of these apartments are beautiful. They're very spacious, areas that we're interested in, and they were also pet friendly. And so I opened the new tab to look at each of the apartments. And so we sat down and we applied for, that was the apartment that was lower in our budget. So we were like, okay, maybe if we don't get our dream place, we can pay less in rent and kind of like balance it out. So we applied for that apartment. We got contacted back the next day to go on a tour for this apartment. So we were like, oh yes, great, we get to tour it. And then as we look at the email with like the information about how to tour this apartment, I realized that we accidentally applied to the wrong apartment. We applied to the apartment that was a little bit out of our budget. And we were like, oh, I mean, we already have the tour. Like, why not just look at this apartment and then put in an application for the next apartment? So I was like, I don't even know how we accidentally ended up applying for the apartment that was out of our budget, because we were not trying to spend that much money. Anyway, we just decided to go through with the tour anywhere, the apartment that weekend. We get to the neighborhood and I'm realizing that this is the neighborhood where I saw that seafood restaurant at. This is the exact same neighborhood. Like the seafood restaurant was like a 5 to 7 minute walk from where this apartment that we're touring was. So I'm like, this apartment is in my dream neighborhood and we accidentally applied for it. Like, what are the odds? What are the chances? And so we go to the tour, and that's hosting the tour. She's so friendly. She's so nice. She's like, yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Like, I'm here to help you. She was just very friendly. And it was refreshing to see that. And I was like, okay, you know, this is good. She's friendly. I'm liking her vibe. And then we look at the apartment and we look around and we're like, this apartment is cute. Like, it's got everything that we want. It has all of our non-negotiables. The outside is super cute. It's how they keep up with the exterior. It has character. It allows pets. There were just so many of these like checks. Like, it was just everything that we wanted was getting checked off the more we viewed this apartment. And I was like, okay, like, even though it's out of our budget, maybe we can spring it. Let's sit down, let's do the budgeting, do the finances, and let's see if this is something that we can do. And so after looking at that apartment and after being in it, I felt so good about it. I was like, this is the place, this is the apartment. I know it. I could feel it in my gut. Like, this is the apartment that I want to live in. And my boyfriend, he was also feeling the same way. Like, he only had 2 non-negotiables when it came for our apartment. And so at the end of the tour, we're talking to the woman that's hosting it, and she's like, yeah, you know, fill out an application online if you're interested. We'll get back to you next week, because by this point it's the weekend. And so we go home, we fill out the application, and then we just go on about our day and we just forget. Like, we know we're not trying to think about it too much, not trying to obsess over it. So we go about throughout our day, and then Monday comes around and then the woman reaches out to us like, hey, I see you guys are interested. Can you provide this information? So we provide it to her, and then she has a few more questions, follow up. We're doing the whole back and forth our way. It turns out that we actually did end up qualifying for the apartment. We thought that it was out of budget, but we actually qualified for it. And so we were thinking, you know, there were quite a few other people at the tour. A lot of people seemed interested in this apartment. The neighborhood's really great. What are the odds that we're going to get this apartment that's out of budget? The next day I get a text message that, hey, this apartment is actually off the market. And I am like crushed. I am devastated. I am like, we just toured, we just submitted our application. Like, how could it possibly be off the market this soon? And so without even reading the full text, I was like in disbelief. I'm shocked, I'm upset. And then I realized at the very bottom of the text that that message was for the apartment that was under budget for us. And I'm like, okay, let me relax. Hours later, the woman who was doing the tour, the host of the apartment, she calls me on the phone and she's like, hey, I just want to let you guys know that y'all are approved for the apartment. And I'm like, ah! And I'm like screaming and I'm excited and I'm yelling and I'm like, oh my gosh, we are approved for the apartment. Yeah, take some time to think about it. Let me know tomorrow if you guys are interested in moving forward. You know, we think about it, we talk about it, we have a conversation, and then, you know, we decide to move forward on that apartment. And that is where we currently live right now, in my dream apartment, in my dream neighborhood. That is not divine timing. I don't know what is. The apartment had literally just became available that day. And because I looked at the list so often, I could see it was just posted. So the fact that we were able to act quick on this apartment and get approved and moved in, it just felt like this is where we were supposed to be. So those are the things that I did to manifest my dream apartment in my dream neighborhood. If you're looking for an apartment and you find that the process has been long and daunting, then I encourage you to watch this video, and I hope that it was helpful to you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. But until then, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.